Welcome back to the show, everyone. Joe Zagacki, Don Bailey Jr., and Josh Darrow, Miami and North Carolina on Saturday at 3:30. Big game for both teams. Carolina came in with huge expectations, kind of similar to what Miami faces every year. You know, sometimes expectations are an albatross. That's what Carolina's finding out.
Well, they are, and I think Mac Brown even came out and blamed the media for giving, for branding this team as the one that's going to sneak into the playoffs, not the ACC championship game, but into the playoffs. Coach Brown, you've been around a long time. I mean, you understand it more than anybody.
He played the game. He was one of us.
He's one of us, right?
He was one of us.
So when you look at this, Joe, and the expectations, I think they should have had him. In a lot of respects, you got supposedly one of the top 4 or 5 quarterbacks in the country. His name has been mentioned the last 2 years, Sam Howell, for a Heisman candidate. Now, I don't know that people took into account that they lost 4,000 yards of offense with the 2 running backs that were drafted 3 and 5 in the NFL and 2 outside receivers. But they've had a defense that returned. I believe it was 21 out of 22 players from the Orange Bowl game that they lost to Texas A&M returned to the team. So the expectations are there, and people expected them to win a lot of football games. And that's really why Mac Brown was brought back to college football. He won a national championship at Texas. He had multiple 10-win seasons at North Carolina. He's there to win, period. And that is the expectation.
Well, I'm going to steal a line from my boy Joe Z over here. Check just the facts. Remember, they went 8-4 last year. You know, they had all this preseason hype coming in. They were stamped to win the Coastal. They lost 4 games a year ago. Notre Dame, they lost in the bowl game to A&M, Florida State. They lost to Virginia. And then, to Don's point, and we talked about this earlier in the year, they lost those 4 guys, and we saw a team at the beginning of the year in Alabama who knows how to reload. They're just stockpiled one after the other. Yeah, Mac Brown is recruiting better, but were they at the point where they were recruiting to that level where those guys can go and you can just reload? And I think we're seeing part of that is the problem. They don't have as many weapons to go to. Don mentioned it earlier. I think that's one of the reasons why Sam Howell is running so much. One, he's under pressure all the time. The line can't protect him. They don't have a second back, or they don't have a second or third receiver to go to. So they're figuring out what it really takes to have that kind of program. But I think it's hard to write off what is missing from last. Those guys were really, really good.
This is the 3rd time that Miami's going to face Sam Howell.
Yes.
And he's good. I mean, we've talked about how good he is. He lands a great deep ball. He has hurt Miami with big plays at the biggest times. Early in the game, 2 years ago up at Carolina, down the left sideline. Last year at Hard Rock, down the left sideline. 2 years ago, Miami had him beat. It was, 4th down and forever, and he completed a big pass. This is the game, and going into the Florida State game a week ago, they'd given up 22 sacks. Miami's got to find a way to affect Sam Howell in this game. It's the 3rd time against him. He's made all the plays against Miami.
It's a 2-headed monster. You've got to affect Sam Howell, and you've got to affect Downs, the receiver. Those are the 2 guys that you've got to control. Sam Howell, to me, is an old school guy. I mean, he's going to run that football. He's going to take the shots. He knows what kind of arm he has. He is not afraid to use it. The thing that he had last year is he had every piece in place to make him look like he was going to win the Heisman Trophy this year. They're still missing a few pieces, and the running game, I think, is the biggest component that they're missing because it's forced defenses now to have him run the football. He's got to be the guy to run the football and create plays with his arm and his legs, Josh.
Yeah, and you just saw Downs. You got to get him down in open space. And they're going to try and get him the ball in space, and he's fast. I mean, he's electric, but Miami's back end has to tackle really well in this game and get him down. And to what Don said earlier, if Sam Howell's carrying the ball 10, 12, 14, 16 times a game, if he gets across the line of scrimmage, he's fair game. You know, make him understand that maybe I don't want to quite do this again. And can they get the ball? Can they get the ball on the ground? Can they create turnovers? Can they shift the game in Miami's favor and make it easier for Miami's offense?
The last note on Sam Howell in Miami would be this. Last year, one of the biggest plays, Miami dropped an interception. Might have changed the whole game around. Dropped an interception early in the game. After that play, it was an avalanche the other way. Now, the Carolina defense the last 2 years Miami has moved the ball pretty well in the Carolina defense, got in a big hole last season. But Carolina's tough to run against. However, they've given up their share of big plays.
Well, the good news is for Miami is Surratt's not there. He was the middle linebacker that was probably the glue for that defense. But overall, they are difficult. They're well coached. They're strong. They're good at the point of attack. They don't take a lot of risk.
No, but they badger you in the secondary. They're always holding and grabbing and pushing.
That always bothers him, but that's
Always.
okay.
You got to play through it.
You got to play through it, but you know what you're going to get. And I don't think now. This is all what we saw last year with King, and this is all what we saw the year before. If I'm the defensive coordinator, I've got a freshman coming in making his first start on the road. I'm soliciting the crowd. I'm telling my defensive front to hit him, and if you're going to get flagged, get flagged. We're going to rattle this kid because they got nobody on the bench. And I would change as much up as I could change. I think that's really what I would expect.
Yeah, and I think we saw Virginia do that a little bit, right? We'd seen them play a little more off. They were like a 3-3-5, and they were really playing off coverage in the back and didn't send a lot of pressure. They sent more against Tyler Van Dyke. I would expect that North Carolina would do the same thing. They lost Surratt, but the other linebacker's pretty good, 44. He likes to move and strike and hit and play downhill. And I think they've gotten some better players in their defensive line, and we know their secondary is very good. They're extremely athletic. They've got the kid that Grimes that came out of high school a year early. He's been there now 3 years, so they have the players on the back end. I mean, I think for North Carolina this year, they've had trouble with running quarterbacks, so that's probably not as big an issue for them in this game. But really, I think if you look at their team, you would probably look at the offense a little bit more and go, that's been more the problem spot than the defense. Because really last year with North Carolina, they were scoring 40, 45 a game. And in their losses this year, they just haven't had that kind of output.
And Josh, to your point, Florida State, their quarterback ran all over them. He had 114 yards. I think he had 2 rushing touchdowns.
And Georgia Tech was the same way. Jeff Sims did the same thing. That's really been problematic. So is Van Dyke, who we can expect them to run for 100-plus yards? No, but can we get a couple runs out of him, right? Again, that shifts their focus. And again, hopefully should make things easier for him and opens the game up.
Okay, we'll talk about the keys to the game when we continue on the show right after this.
If you train like a pro, then you should be treated like a pro. Much like the human body, our team of sports medicine experts moves as one to achieve a singular goal. Recover your game.
The school bus.
The Zach wagon.
Wally.
No matter what you call your car or why you're letting it go, AutoNation will buy it, and you don't have to buy one from us. We're paying top dollar right now. So go to AutoNation.com or come see us for a super easy appraisal. Get paid on the spot, and you can deposit it the same day. Visit any AutoNation store or AutoNation.com. What drives you drives us.